Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We're just a few hours away from a partial freeway closure that will last through the weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. We'll have more on the Interstate 5 bridge repairs in a moment, but we begin with a different transportation story. Who will be the next leader of SANDAG? KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen tells us environmental groups want a say in the selection.
Hassan Ekrada took over as leader of SANDAG in 2018 and soon ruffled feathers. He made climate change the center of his decision-making on the type of transportation infrastructure the agency would prioritize. Freeway expansions, which increase greenhouse gas emissions, were paused. Ekrada became the darling of progressives and environmentalists. But conservative opposition to his ideas mounted over the past year, leading to Ekrada's announcement in July that he would step down. His supporters gathered outside SANDAG headquarters today, calling on the agency to replace him with someone who shares Ekrada's vision for a less car-dependent San Diego.
Someone who will champion community priorities and a long-term sustainability vision. This vision is one that embraces multimodal transportation with options for drivers, public transit riders, cyclists, and walkers alike.
Ekrada will officially resign at the end of the year. County Supervisor Nora Vargas, who chairs the SANDAG board, said she heard Ekrada's supporters.
As we're moving forward with this process, my commitment to them is that I will be in constant communication with all of them to share what that process is and reassure them that we have a strong leadership team that is able to execute the work as we're moving forward.
The next CEO of SANDAG is unlikely to be as brash as Ekrada, but fights over freeway widenings, public transit expansions, and new taxes to pay for those projects will continue. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
If your weekend plans are taking you downtown or to the airport, you can expect delays. KPBS reporter Melissa May has the details.
Almost 5 miles of southbound I-5 freeway will be partially closed starting tonight at 9 p.m. through 5 a.m. Monday. The closure will allow Caltrans to repair a 60-year-old bridge that runs over State Route 163. The southbound I-5 closure will begin at Interstate 8, with all traffic being detoured to eastbound I-8. Caltrans officials say there will be at least one lane of southbound I-5 open for limited local and airport traffic. Everett Townsend is Caltrans District 11 Chief Deputy Director. He says southbound travelers should use Interstate 805 and State Route 163 to alleviate traffic on I-5 and to plan ahead if they're driving to downtown San Diego.
We are expecting some delays, and so with that, that's why we're trying to get the word out well enough in advance so folks can either defer their travel or make sure they give themselves extra time to travel to the areas they'd like to go. But yeah, we would expect anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour delay.
For real-time traffic information, go to quickmap.dot.ca.gov. The second part of this bridge repair affecting northbound I-5 lanes is scheduled for late September. The repair project is expected to be completed by the end of October. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The closure will also create a hassle for anyone traveling to and from the airport this weekend. If you plan on taking a red-eye flight, you might want to give yourself extra time to get there. You could also find another solution to getting around detours like this traveler did.
My plan is to take the trolley back up. I live up near UCSD. And so the trolley works out great for that because my wife will not have to come down here and take care of me and get me back up there. So it's going to work out great for us. But if the trolley wasn't there, this will be a lot trickier.
Airport officials advise travelers to allow more than 2 hours before their flight departs.
Well, we are keeping our eye on the tropics as we are anticipating some tropical impacts from Hurricane Hova as it continues to travel north and then west. But still across the southwest, high surf is going to be a problem, which is why we have high surf advisories for a lot of the beaches through Orange County and north. So make sure you are staying weather aware. We're also tracking some intense heat. We'll show you when the high surf is going to be an issue and when the heat is going to bring it on.
A new documentary says reading is a matter of civil rights and that there's a literacy crisis, especially for children of color. The film is being screened in Southeast San Diego this weekend. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has that story.
What's that, Bebe? Blue. A bird.
Violet Gonzalez and her young daughter Sabrina enjoy reading together here at the Valencia Park Malcolm X Library. There is 26,000 square feet of bookshelves and free learning opportunities for every age.
She loves to read. Like, I carry her books everywhere. I think it really helped out with her development, I think.
Literacy can begin well before kindergarten.
Literacy can be anything from, looking at pictures and interpreting them, singing rhymes, communicating one-on-one. That all contributes to the foundation of literacy.
What letter is it? Y. Yeah.
Everybody deserves the right to read.
According to the new documentary, The Right to Read, the education system is failing students. A report from the U.S. Department of Education says 42% of California fourth graders are reading below a basic level. That jumps to 54% for Hispanic students and 62% for black students. While the statistics can be discouraging, the solutions and the strategies to improve literacy offer hope. And there's a lot of learning happening at the library.
It shares the things that bring them joy, the ways that they play together.
Rihanna Bassour is with the Diamond Educational Excellence Partnership, DEEP for short. Books are a free benefit here, too. DEEP also provides free literacy tutors and academic enrichment workshops for families who live in the Diamond neighborhoods of Southeast San Diego, including Webster, Encanto, Lincoln Park, and Choias View.
We have the tools and we can prove that they work. We just have to disseminate them as much as possible to the people that need them the most.
I ran to the cat.
The Right to Read documentary is free to watch at the Valencia Park Malcolm X Library at 1 o'clock this Saturday afternoon. Everyone is invited, including the littlest learners. Okay. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Another school district in California has approved a policy that would out transgender students to their parents. The Orange Unified School District has become the 6th in the state to require parents be notified when their child identifies as a different gender on campus. Some think outing kids to their parents before they're ready can be dangerous. Others argue the school withholding information from parents is dangerous.
This has nothing to do with being inclusive with parents. This is everything to do with a witch hunt. They deserve to have a safe place in their schools where they have counselors and teachers.
Change their genders without the parents' notification. That to me is criminal.
Parents should be the chief overseers of their children's welfare.
The policy includes an exception. Schools wouldn't notify parents if the principal or psychologist had reason to believe doing so would pose a direct threat to the student. A similar policy at a district in San Bernardino County was blocked by a judge this week after California's Attorney General filed suit. San Diego police still enforce a curfew for juveniles, despite research showing it's not effective in reducing crime. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson spoke with someone who says it might do more harm than good.
You have all walks of life that are here.
Arthur Soriano was a teenager in City Heights in the late 80s, early 90s. He says at the time, the community had a lot of trauma and few resources.
Everyone was fighting for their lives.
These were the years when politicians, including then Senator Joe Biden, promised to be tough on crime to stop quote-unquote super predators. This myth that more and more youth were committing violence without remorse.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
Soriano says City Heights youth feared the police, who he says only came into the neighborhood for things like curfew sweeps and immigration raids. So they ran.
Hey, the police is coming. Let's run. Let's get away.
He was a latchkey kid.
I was raised with a single mother. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning homes.
He says he had no father and no other family here, and sought out others who would validate him.
I needed a way out, and how I found my way out was becoming part of gangs.
At that time, he says he was more of a gang wannabe. At night, his friends liked to gather in a quick corner parking lot. Most times, he says, they weren't doing anything wrong.
We were just hanging out and, talking smack to each other and laughing and giggling.
But it didn't matter. The city of San Diego has a curfew law. Kids under 18 can't be out without an adult between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., with few exceptions.
They're coming with their little vans and wagons and just do raids.
Soriano's first arrest was for curfew.
And while they were doing curfew sweeps, they got me, they grabbed me.
They discovered he had a stolen bike, too.
At that point is when I began to get wrapped up in the system.
He went to juvenile hall just for a few days before being put on probation. But he says it was the start of a cycle.
For most kids, our way of solving it was just running until we would get caught.
The interactions fed into his identity as a gang member. He would eventually go to prison for 23 years. He's been out for the last 11, and now works with youth caught in the same system.
Hope, right? And I'm a beacon of that now.
San Diego police stopped punishing curfew violations with juvenile hall or diversion programs in mid-2019, but they still enforce it. There were 141 curfew arrests last year. They detain the children and call their parents, return them home, or to the police station for pickup. An SDPD spokesperson says they enforce curfew to keep children safe and make it less likely that they'll commit crime. But research is almost unanimous. It's not effective. That's according to a senior researcher for the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice, Mike Males.
Curfews function as devices to waste police time taking law-abiding youth off the street and creating antagonistic relationships between police and youth and really not accomplishing anything.
The research doesn't seem to shape San Diego policy. At one point, the city accounted for 40% of all curfew arrests in California. Black and Latino youth make up more than 3/4 of the arrests in San Diego. Males says racial discrimination is the point.
A lot of this is just frankly racial in intent. It's to get Black and Latino youth off the streets, out of the public where they're frightening mostly white patrons of gentrifying areas or suburbs.
He says teens actually have a lower than average crime rate, and it's been going down in recent decades.
We found that when police apprehend youth for curfews, 99+% of the time, the youth that they apprehend was not doing anything wrong.
Research shows youth being in public during curfew hours actually helps reduce crime. Less empty streets, more witnesses. Soriano suggests an alternative to curfew, youth drop-in centers that could be open late night year-round. Soriano helped run extended youth programs during the summer, and he was surprised by the demand.
And we were like, man, these kids, they're not going to stay with us for 5-6 hours, right? Like, they're going to want to go back home and get into what, kids get into. And no, like clockwork, from 12 to 6.
Youth drop-in centers were voted down in this year's city budget. City council members will re-examine the budget next spring. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Nancy Pelosi is looking to extend her lengthy career on Capitol Hill. The 83-year-old California Democrat announced she will run for re-election in the U.S. House next November. Her career in Washington started when she won a special election in June of 1987. She was the first woman to serve as House Speaker from 2007 to 2011. She reclaimed the position in 2019 before stepping down in January when Republicans took control of the House. The United Auto Workers Union is less than 1 week away from a possible strike against all 3 major U.S. automakers. It would be the nation's largest labor strike in 25 years. As Mike Valerio reports, while the two sides are far apart, negotiations are moving quickly.
We're now less than 1 week away from a historic potential triple strike that could idle the economic engines of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. For members of the United Auto Workers Union, it's a matter of survival.
We want to be able to eat, buy our products we build, put gas in our cars, heat them, buy clothes for our kids, and if we want, put our kids through college.
The current contracts between the UAW and the 3 automakers all expire next Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. That could mean a strike at midnight next Friday. If a strike unfolds, not only would the automakers and union members take an economic hit, but so would suppliers and many other businesses nationwide. The 6-week strike at GM alone in 2019 was enough to put Michigan into a recession.
These negotiations are serious and they matter. The outcome impacts all of us.
The union has made an ambitious set of demands, seeking to reverse concessions it agreed to from 2007 to 2009, as GM and Chrysler faced bankruptcy and needed federal bailouts to survive. Union demands include a 40% pay raise over the course of the 4-year contract, restoring cost of living increases, restoring traditional pension plans for all workers, and protections against job losses and plant closings as production shifts to electric vehicles.
Cost of gas, it costs for cars, it costs for electricity, everything. So basically, we need decent wages to continue to survive.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
After months of picketing, actors and writers have revived a push for strikers to receive unemployment benefits. The Writers Guild of America joined the Screen Actors Guild in Culver City to rally in support for Senate Bill 799. If the measure were to become law, workers in California would receive unemployment benefits after 2 weeks of striking. The State Chamber of Commerce opposed a similar bill 4 years ago. They argue there's a difference between someone who loses their job and someone who decides to strike. Colorful blooms are the usual crowd drawers at the Carlsbad flower fields, but this weekend it's the art. Preparations are underway for Art Walk, Carlsbad. The free family event is this Saturday and Sunday on Armada Drive above the Carlsbad flower fields. More than 150 artists will be on site with original pieces available for purchase. Art Walk director Kurt Brooker says events like these help support local and traveling artists.
This is their livelihood, so it's important to really kind of support art and support the artists that are behind it, and have some original art on your wall.
All parking is free. Families can also enjoy musical performances, food trucks, and a variety of activities. The event runs from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and 10 to 5 on Sunday. To San Diegans, rain is almost always welcome, and we got a very, very big gift of it 2 weeks ago when a tropical storm came to town. KPBS Sci-Tech reporter Thomas Fudge says local plants have responded as if spring has come again.
It was Sunday, August 20th, when Tropical Storm Hillary arrived in San Diego. It rained all day, dropping at least 2 inches in most places. SoCal native and garden expert Nan Sturman called it shocking.
And except for the 6 years that I was in university and hanging out afterwards, I've lived my entire life in Southern California, and I have never, ever seen a summer rainstorm like we had a couple weeks ago. Never.
All that water, when the local landscape should be hot and dry, made our plants act pretty strange. This Tipuana tree took on a second bloom. Native plants like this ceanothus took on new growth when they should be dormant. Plant experts saw surprises all over town.
Black Mountain Open Space Park, for example, the Mission Manzanita, those beautiful gnarly shrubs with the orange-brown trunks, they have flowers there in September.
Kun said lemonade berry and sugar bush plants are growing new buds right now. This all means that it's a good time and an unusual time for us to enjoy a flowering landscape. But there might be a downside to Hillary's generous soaking. In San Diego's backcountry, seed pods are germinating. CAL FIRE's Tim Chavez says that means we're going to get a lot of new grasses and weeds.
One thing we have noticed is it's really caused a big
increase in the sprouting of invasive and exotic species. Like I've noticed in our local area, the Russian thistle, or what most people call tumbleweeds, oh my gosh, they are really taking over in a lot of places.
That, of course, could provide more fuel for fire when Santa Ana winds start to blow. Sturman adds that native and drought-tolerant plants don't really want irrigation or rain this time of year, and moisture in the soil could make their roots vulnerable to fungi.
If you water and you water too much, then the Phytophthora and the other pathogenic fungi develop, and they attack those plants, and that's when you get root rot.
Plant experts agree that August rainstorm was such an unusual event that we're in uncharted territory, and predicting its environmental effect may have to be our best guess. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
This weekend, the city of San Diego will unveil 3 design concepts for a new Ocean Beach pier. It's hosting a 3rd community workshop to get input on the designs. The workshop starts at 2 tomorrow afternoon. Final concept is expected to be revealed early next year.
Let's start you off with your weather headlines, what you need to know as we head into the weekend. A warmer weekend setup here. We are going to continue on this warming trend, though we are anticipating some hurricane impacts with high surf there along the coast with increased cloudiness, and even we cannot rule out the chance for a few stray thunderstorms in the mountains. Now tonight, looking ahead, we're dropping down to a low of 68, mostly cleared. Still going to be humid as we head into tomorrow. Well, it's going to be toasty in a few areas, especially further inland. But let's start off Oceanside 84, San Diego 81. Of course, warmer in Ramona with a high of 95, and Borrego Springs coming in with a high of 107. And across the deserts, well, that's where we have an excessive heat warning in place. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself in this intense heat if you are going to be in these areas, as this is dangerous heat you don't want to play around with, and this is going to be in effect Saturday morning through Sunday evening. Now, we also have tropical impacts. We're tracking Hurricane Hova, and as it continues to move north and west, well, it's going to be bringing us some impacts across the southwest, particularly with high surf. And the next on the list, since we do have Hova, well, Kenneth is on the list, so our next storm would be a K storm, and that high surf advisory remains in effect across Orange County beaches, Newport Beach and north. High surf advisory through Sunday night. So again, if you are maybe trying to head out to the beaches, well, dangerous waters await you. So make sure that you are staying weather aware. It's not going to be the best beach conditions. Now along the coast, again, 84 on Saturday, 83 on Sunday. We're staying in the 80s through Monday, and then we're dipping back down to the 70s, though it is still going to be quite humid. So feeling a little bit warmer than what those air temperatures are actually reading. Further inland, highs in the 90s, and then we drop back down to the 80s by Tuesday and Wednesday. Mountains, well, we could see again a few isolated thunder showers even throughout the weekend, but overall we'll be staying mostly dry, mostly sunny. For the mountains, overall comfortable, but for the deserts, well, it's going to be hot in the triple digits until next Wednesday. All right, for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
Spectrum is a major cable provider in San Diego, and those looking for ESPN on the NFL's opening weekend might be out of luck. SDSU's Miro Kopik explains the company's beef with parent company Disney in the Friday Business Report.
Charter Communications basically are saying is that, look, we are paying and are subsidizing a business model that is cannibalizing our business. You know, this becomes a very important test case because at the same time, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, about a month ago said, look, we're going to take ESPN and go direct to consumers. These are statements that really frighten the cable and satellite TV operators. ESPN is $9 a month per subscriber. It is the most expensive channel across the spectrum. Most other channels are either pennies or a couple of dollars, but ESPN is gold. Someone's going to have to blink, and the time is really drawing short because Charter, who has a very big presence in the New York City area, is facing a Monday Night Football game on ABC, which is owned by Disney, between the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills. You know, to have hundreds of thousands or 1 million over plus New York subscribers very angry is not a place Charter wants to be.
We want to remind you of a significant closure happening this weekend. The southbound lanes of Interstate 5 will be closed in the downtown area beginning at Interstate 8. It starts at 9 tonight and lasts through Monday morning at 5. Officials say at least one lane of I-5 will remain open for limited local and airport traffic. Another round of closures for northbound I-5 is scheduled for later this month. A roller skating rink in Encanto is celebrating a new milestone. The business held a grand reopening today, now named Ringer's Roller Rink. Neeli Ringer Goldfarb had just opened up her roller derby rink, then the pandemic hit. A week later, everything shut down. Within a few months, they were able to reopen as an outdoor business, at first just offering small skating lessons.
Folks got super into skating at home during the pandemic, and we were here to teach people, and it grew from there. And it's so filled with life and vibrancy, and we just want to bring that to everyone in San Diego.
The skating rink has been offering free admission all day, and if you want to check it out, it's open until 10 tonight. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening and a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.